I had to tell myself, let me get on one more for the week's up, because I like how y'all was vibing in that last video. I dropped these joints based off of y'all energy, so let's get into it. Now tonight, we're going to take it to the D. It been a minute. Let's get into a turf war. Now, this was more than just a turf war. It was a revolution, and it nearly split the streets of Detroit into two. Detroit in the late 70s and early 80s was a hustler's playground. If you had heart, muscle, and a plan. The original blueprint came from YBI, Young Boys Incorporated, with the key players. You had Bush Jones, Wonderful Wayne, Raymond Baby Ray Peoples, and Mark Big Block Marshall. They flipped the game with military-style organization, flashy branding, and a cold-blooded strategy. They used juveniles as soldiers. It made it nearly impossible for law enforcement to touch them. They were ghosts on the books, millionaires in the streets, but every king's reign invites a challenger. In the 1980s, that challenge came in the form of Leroy Gun Buttram and his brother Walter. Their gang, Pony Down, wasn't just inspired by YBI. They were molded from his blueprint. You had people around yelling out Pony Down, and people was looking around like they didn't know what the hell they was talking about. See, in the game of the streets, timing is everything. While some chase power, others wait patiently for power to fail. That's exactly what Leroy Gun Buttram did, as he made one of his boldest and smartest plays in Detroit's drug game. Moving in on YBI at their most vulnerable moment, he studied how YBI operated. He watched where their lieutenants were getting picked off. He saw the distrust growing in the ranks and how corner boys were going independent. That's where he saw the opening. From the jump, Gun was aggressive. He moved his crew right into YBI territory on the west side, not to blend in, but to take over. Pony Down or pack up and leave town. Spray painted on walls, doors, mailboxes, even cars. YBI posters were torn down. Colorful flyers pushed new dope brands, Devil's Dust, GQ, Papa Smurf. By mid-1980, the streets were flooded with adolescent pushers. Same formula, same style, different flag. Detroit had never seen anything like it. YBI wasn't about to go out quietly, and Gun Buttram wasn't backing down. But the organization of YBI was already dealing with problems on the inside involving the key players we talked about. Now, we're not going to get deep into that here, but I'm going to pin a video where I cover all of that, so don't be too quick to leave. But Buttram played chess, not checkers. At the beginning, instead of beefing with YBI head on, he recruited some of the younger soldiers that was unhappy, who wasn't getting paid right, or was just tired of being pawns. He offered them more money, more control, and more respect. As YBI leaders fought each other or went on a run, Buttram, his army just grew quickly, and his name didn't ring loud like theirs, but his handprints were all over the new wave. Baby Ray Peoples, he had a meeting with his workers that posted up on his corners, and the rules were simple. If you're not family, you don't hustle here. Baby Ray armed his young runners with ratchets, and they stashed them on the car tires of hoopties. No heat on the walk-ups, just reach low, grab still, and let it rip. A lot of those youngins wasn't built for war. He told them, if they ain't yours, shoot first. Now, one morning, a few Ponytown guys tried setting up on the back end of Linwood, trying to catch some of that morning rush, and immediately got jumped, robbed for whatever they had on them. They got their jackets and shoes confiscated, forced to leave barefooted. The same night, that very same night, the same YBI corner got sprayed with bullets, but nobody was hit, but they got their corner crossed. Now it was a full-blown war. Every other night was a shootout. Buttram, he was vicious, passing off still to the young ones. He would say, they ain't gonna charge you like a man, so handle it like one. At first, some factions tried to stay neutral. Old heads, cousins, childhood friends. They didn't want to pick sides, but the deeper it got, the harder it was to stay out of it. As YBI started to look weak, getting hit in the pockets and losing corners, some of their own start switching on them, start switching sides. Loyalty faded fast when the power started shifting. Pony Down wasn't playing, man. They'd drive right up on YBI blocks and let it off, spraying corners without warning. No conversations, no negotiations. And the crazy part, they were putting guns in the hands of kids, 12, 13 years old, telling them to go to war. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about pride, power, pain. The city was caught in a storm, and the rules, man, they no longer apply. But what started as a cold war turned hot. in late 1982, and it got bloody. The feds had YBI in a chokehold, indictments flying, kingpins falling, leaders fighting. Pony Down saw weakness and he struck. But YBI's A-team, man, they ambushed Pony Down, pulled triggers. They came through spraying them. One dead, 2 wounded, but retaliation came fast. Pony Down, they caught a YBI affiliate and beat him to death with baseball bats. They left his body in an abandoned house to leave a message. And let me remind y'all the type of people that was involved in this shit. You had boys that weren't old enough to drive, but they was doing drive-bys on bikes. One kid emptied a snub nose through the window of a Pony Down spot. Then they would go to school the next morning like nothing happened. But YBI would pull a bold move. In the fall of 1983, Gunn's 2-year-old nephew was kidnapped. A $100,000 ransom was demanded. The streets froze. Nobody was off limits at this point. The Buttram snapped. A drop-off was arranged, but instead of cooperating, Walter Buttram opened fire on the pickup man. That night, the word hit the block, a $250,000 boundary on the kidnappers. Within hours, the boy was dropped off unharmed. So the ransom wasn't paid with money. I guess it was paid with fear. Or they just had sense, like, yo, yeah, we doing the most, man. It's a young boy. But you know the crazy part of all this is that the Davis family was supplying YBI and Pony Down. And to my opinion, knowing this war was going on, the Davis family failed as businessmen. They had the ability to sit both groups down and squash it. I mean, both organizations was bringing them $1 million a week. Like, why wouldn't you want that to stop? But before you knew it, it was too late. Corners were empty. Nobody knew who was who because half of these kids carrying the heat didn't even have hair on their face yet. But even kings bleed. On November 20th, 1985, the empire fell. The feds hit Pony Down with a 35-person indictment. Drug trafficking charges, firearms, tax evasions. The party was over. Buttram, he didn't wait around for nothing. He went on a run. But nowhere in Michigan was safe, so he was caught in a traffic stop on the west side of the state, allegedly headed to Chicago, where the gang had ties. Now, Gunn, he pleaded guilty. So did his brothers. 6.5 years, in and out, but the streets never forget. Pony Down was the underdogs. They were short-lived, but the impact, it was permanent. It redefined how wars were fought back then in the dope game. Flashy marketing, young shooters, public disrespect, and a level of boldness that bordered on suicide. That's it for tonight. I appreciate all y'all for tuning in. Don't forget to stay tuned to the video that's pinned at the end of this video on YBI founders. I get into more details, so don't forget to tune into that. Show love, hit the like button, don't be a stranger. Shout out to all my upper echelon members, my Patreon members. Yo, man, y'all be safe out there, man. I'm out.